You think the age gap is what she's weighing. It isn't. The truth is, by the time a younger woman decides whether she's drawn to you, the age question has already been answered. And it was answered before you opened your mouth, before you said a single word, before you introduced yourself, before you told her anything about your life. And if you have been walking into every interaction with a younger woman carrying the age gap like a weight you need to explain away, you have been solving the wrong problem. And it has been costing you every moment that could have gone differently. Today, that changes. Hello and welcome back. I've spent years in research studying female attraction psychology, the neuroscience of first impressions, and specifically the pre-verbal decision processes that determine whether a woman feels drawn to a man before any conversation begins. And what I keep returning to, across the research, across the data, across the thousands of interactions I have examined, is this: the decision happens first, the words come after. And most men, particularly men over 50, who carry the weight of assumed disadvantage, are trying to make their case in a courtroom that has already delivered its verdict. If you are a man in your 40 seconds, 50 seconds, or 60 seconds who has ever hesitated in the presence of a woman younger than you, who has edited himself before speaking, who has preemptively discounted his own appeal because of a number, this conversation is going to change what that number means to you. Stay with me, because what I am about to share is not encouragement. It is mechanism. It is how this actually works inside her nervous system. And once you understand the mechanism, the hesitation dissolves on its own. Let me start with the science, because this is the part that most men in your position have never been given. Research on first impressions, including landmark work by the late social psychologist Dr. Nalini Ambady, who held positions at Harvard, Tufts, and finally Stanford before her passing in 2013, and who is best known for coining the term thin slices of behavior with colleague Robert Rosenthal, established something that upends almost every assumption most men carry about how attraction works. Ambady's research established that we can form accurate impressions of other people very quickly, even by just viewing thin slices of their behavior in as little as 6 seconds. No words, no information, no history, just the silent observation of nonverbal behavior, posture, movement, the way a person occupied and related to space. What this means in practical terms is that by the time a younger woman has been in a room with you for 30 seconds, she's already formed a neural impression of you that will shape everything that follows. Not consciously, not logically. Her nervous system has read you. Your stillness or restlessness, your confidence or self-monitoring, your gravitational pull or your effort to be liked. And it has already produced a response. The age gap does not feature in that response. Not because age is irrelevant to attraction. The research is clear that it isn't. But because what the nervous system reads in those first moments has nothing to do with your birth year. It reads energy. It reads groundedness. It reads the presence or absence of need. And here's what the research consistently shows about men at your stage of life. The qualities that produce the strongest positive pre-verbal impression. Calm authority, absence of urgency, the unhurried quality of a man who has stopped trying to prove himself, are qualities that develop specifically through decades of lived experience. They cannot be performed by younger men because they have not yet been earned. She did not make her decision despite your age. In many cases, she made it because of what your age made visible. Here is where we get precise. Because understanding that the decision happens before you speak is only useful if you understand what she was reading while it happened. These are the 5 signals, named, decoded, and entirely within your control. Signal 1, the arrival read. This is the first and most immediate signal, the one that registers the moment you enter a space. Most men in their 40 seconds and 50 seconds enter a room in one of 2 modes. The first is what I call scanning mode. They look around quickly, their eyes moving in short arcs, checking who has noticed them, assessing how they are being received before they have done anything. The nervous system behind this mode is one of low security. It is the body language of a person who needs environmental confirmation before they can settle. The second mode is what attachment researchers call secure base behavior, entering a space with an unhurried, grounded quality that does not require the room's response before settling. Eyes move slowly and with genuine curiosity rather than anxious surveillance. The body is at ease because the person inside it is at ease with not yet knowing how the room will receive them. Research on posture and presence confirms that the way we occupy space communicates social information before we speak. Studies at Northwestern University's Kellogg School of Management found that posture expansiveness, positioning oneself in a way that opens up the body and takes up space, activates a sense of power that produces behavioral changes in a person independent of their actual rank or hierarchical role. Across 3 studies, posture consistently mattered more than hierarchy in making a person think, feel, and act in a more powerful way. And when a person's internal state shifts toward power and ease, their movement, their stillness, their quality of presence shifts with it. And that shift is what others read. The age gap is invisible in this signal. What is visible is security, and security at any age is immediately felt. What this means for you do not need to perform confidence at arrival. You need only to resist the pull to check whether you are being noticed. Walk at your own pace. Look with curiosity, not calculation. Let the room come to you rather than reaching for it. That is the entire signal. Signal 2, the Stillness Index. This is the signal most men never identify because they have spent their lives in environments that rewarded the opposite. Stillness, in the context of social presence, does not mean passivity. It means the absence of nervous movement, the fidgeting, the checking of phones, the manufacturing of busyness to fill the discomfort of being present without immediate purpose. Research in ethology and social psychology identifies these small, non-purposive, self-directed movements, scratching, face-touching, object fidgeting, as displacement behaviors, the body's visible expression of stress and social tension. Studies confirm that displacement behaviors appear most frequently in situations of social uncertainty and reflect heightened autonomic arousal. And research on social perception shows that people find the company of those who exhibit frequent displacement behaviors less comfortable. These signals communicate stress and distraction in ways that are read before they are consciously processed. What is read in the absence of these signals, and far more powerfully, is a man who can simply be still, who can sit with his own presence in a room without needing to perform, fill, or manage it. This quality is genuinely rare, and it registers, particularly to women who have spent their lives surrounded by men who are in constant motion toward the next thing as something close to extraordinary. This is the Stillness Index, and men at your stage of life who've earned the capacity to be at rest with themselves carry it at a level younger men almost never can. What this means for you. The next time you are in a space where a woman is present, resist every instinct toward displacement behavior. Put the phone away. Let your hands rest. Let the silence exist. Your stillness is not inactivity. It is one of the loudest signals you can send. Signal 3, the eye contact signal. Eye contact is perhaps the most studied signal in the literature on nonverbal attraction, and it is also the most consistently misapplied. Most men, when they know a woman they find attractive is in their field of vision, do one of 2 things. They avoid looking altogether out of a trained fear of appearing presumptuous, or they look too directly and too long in a way that registers as a performance of confidence rather than an expression of it. Research on eye contact and romantic attraction, including a 2024 speed dating study using dual mobile eye tracking, published in Frontiers in Psychology, found that subjects were more likely to choose those dating partners with whom they shared more mutual eye contact. Crucially, receiving eye contact predicted mate choice independently, meaning a woman who looked at a man and felt he was genuinely present to her was more likely to select him. Eye contact is not simply about looking. It is about the quality of what is being communicated through the look. Warmth, attention, the unhurried sense of genuine interest without demand. The neuroscience of genuine communicative connection reinforces this. Research by Dr. Yuri Hassan at Princeton University, whose fMRI studies on speaker-listener neural coupling, showed that the brains of a speaker and listener synchronize during genuine communication, and that this synchrony vanishes when communication fails, confirms that authentic engagement is measurable at the neural level and felt before it is understood. A younger woman who is drawn to an older man will almost always describe, in the language of eye contact, something she felt rather than something she saw. He looked at her like she was worth looking at. He held her gaze without needing her to do anything with it. He was present without being predatory. That quality is not age-dependent. It is security-dependent, and security deepens with decades. What this means for you: offer your full, unhurried attention. Hold the look just past the point of social necessity, not with force but with ease. And when she looks away, let her. Do not chase the eye contact. Let it breathe. Signal 4, the non-reaction signal. This is the signal that separates men, women are drawn to, from men women feel vaguely obligated toward. And it is the one men at your stage of life are most uniquely positioned to transmit. The non-reaction signal is the observable pre-verbal evidence that a man's emotional state is not dependent on the woman's response to him. He is warm but not eager. He is interested but not searching. He is present but not pressuring. And because his internal state does not visibly change based on how she responds to him in any given moment, her nervous system registers something it has likely not registered often. This man is not going to need something from me that I have not offered. Research on what attachment psychologists call secure base behavior in adult relationships, built on the foundational work of John Bowlby and extended by generations of researchers, identifies this quality of non-reactive, consistently available warmth as one of the most powerful drivers of felt attraction and attachment in adult women. It is not passivity. It is emotional regulation made visible. For younger women specifically, this signal carries additional weight. Many of the men in our own age cohort have not yet developed the internal resources to offer this. Their emotional states are still visibly dependent on social feedback, still reactive, still subject to the approval mechanisms of youth. When she encounters a man whose warmth does not spike or deflate based on her moment-to-moment response, the contrast registers at a neurological level. She felt it before she could explain it. She liked him before she met him. And the age gap was not an obstacle in that sequence. It was part of what made the signal possible. Signal 5, the direction signal. This is the final pre-verbal signal, and in some ways the most powerful, because it operates over a longer time frame than a single moment of eye contact or stillness. The direction signal is the observable evidence that a man is going somewhere, not geographically, not professionally necessarily, but internally, that he has a purpose, a set of values he is actively inhabiting, a direction of life that he has chosen rather than drifted into. Research on what psychologist Dr. Dan McAdams at Northwestern University has termed narrative identity, the coherent life story that psychologically well-functioning adults construct from their accumulated experience, shows that people who carry a sense of purposeful personal direction are perceived, both consciously and subconsciously, as more trustworthy and more worth investing in than people whose lives feel directionless or stalled. For women who are drawn to older men, this signal is often the deciding one. Not, does he have impressive achievements? But, is he a man who is alive to his own life? Is he curious? Is he moving? Is he inhabiting himself with intention? This signal is transmitted in small ways, in how he speaks about what interests him, in the quality of attention he brings to his own experience, in the absence of the bitter or resigned quality that settles into men who have stopped choosing their lives actively. She read this in him before he explained it. She felt the direction before she heard its destination, and the age gap did not diminish this signal. In a man over 50 who is still actively choosing and moving, it amplifies it. I want to address this directly because it is the question that underlies everything we have covered, and because the answer deserves to be stated plainly rather than implied. The age gap becomes irrelevant in the moment that what she is reading pre-verbally is stronger than the cultural story she's been told about what age means. And for a man who transmits all 5 signals, arrival, security, stillness, present eye contact, non-reactive warmth, purposeful direction, that moment happens very quickly. This is not a claim that age never matters. Research on mate preferences, including the work of David Buss across cultures, confirms that age is a factor in partner evaluation for most women in most contexts. It is a real variable, but it is not a fixed one, and it is not the primary variable in the pre-verbal impression sequence. What women who are drawn to older men consistently describe across multiple studies and surveys is not that they ignored the age gap. It is that the age gap was simply not the loudest thing in the room. The loudest thing was the quality of his presence. And presence, as we have now established, is something that age, in the right man, builds rather than diminishes. The question is not whether you are too old. The question is whether you have done the work that your years make possible, whether you carry them as weight or as depth, whether the decades you have lived have made you more yourself or whether they have made you smaller. I want to pause here. If you have spent years or decades carrying the age gap as your primary explanation for why something didn't happen, why a connection didn't develop, why a woman who seemed interested ultimately didn't move toward you, I want to ask you to set that explanation down, just for a moment, just long enough to consider the alternative. What if the age gap was never the obstacle? What if the obstacle was something far more within your control? The scanning eyes at arrival, the displacement behavior under pressure, the reactive warmth that rose and fell with her moment-to-moment response, the direction that was present but not yet transmissible in the way it needed to be. Those are not fixed. Those are not the product of your birth year. Those are the product of awareness. And awareness in the hands of a man who has lived enough to act on it changes everything quickly. This was never your fault. Nobody showed you this mechanism. Nobody laid it out in the language of pre-verbal signals and neuroscience and the decision sequence that happens before you speak. You were told the age gap was the story. Today I am telling you it never was. How many moments in your past, real, present, specific moments, now look different in the light of what we have covered today? The woman at the event who looked at you twice and then moved on, was it the age gap that ended that? Or was it what she read in the 30 seconds after the second look? The scanning for her reaction, the displacement behavior, the drop in your own energy when she turned away, the connection that felt real but never quite arrived. Was it the years between you that created the distance? Or was it the moment you began explaining and justifying, the moment you stepped out of the pre-verbal space where she had already responded to you and into the verbal space where you started making your case to a jury that had already decided? Let that settle. Not with regret, with awakening, because from this point forward, you walk differently into a room. You hold your eyes differently. You let your stillness speak before your words do. You stop carrying the age gap as a weight that needs explaining, because you now understand that she was never weighing it the way you feared. She was reading something else entirely. And what she was reading, your stillness, your non-reactive warmth, your unhurried quality, the direction of a man who is still actively choosing his life, is exactly what men at your stage of life who have done the internal work that age makes possible carry more powerfully than anyone else in the room. The age gap never stopped her. You just didn't know what she was looking at when she made her decision. Now you do. I'll see you in the next one.